Hello friends, in today's session we are going to discuss the case Kapila Hingorani vs. State of Bihar. First, let us briefly understand this case. Kapila Hingorani vs. State of Bihar 2003 case pertained to the issue of starvation and suicides resulting from the non-payment of salaries to employees of government-owned companies. The Supreme Court held the state government accountable and directed it to deposit rupees 50 crore for salary payments and expedite the liquidation of government companies' assets. Additionally, the central government was instructed to decide on the division of assets and liabilities under the Bihar Reorganization Act 2000. Now, let us study this case in detail. Answer: Plaintiff Kapila Hingorani versus Defendant State of Bihar. Reference 2003-4 Scale 712. Subject matter: this case pertains to the grave situation of starvation and suicides arising due to the non-payment of salaries to employees of government-owned companies. Facts of the case: around January 1992, employees of Bihar's state-owned enterprises were deprived of their salaries, pushing them into a financial crisis. In light of this, Supreme Court Advocate Kapila Hingorani filed a writ petition under Article 32 of Indian Constitution. The petitioner cited a new report stating that hundreds of employees of various state-owned corporations and statutory bodies in Bihar face severe financial distress due to prolonged non-payment of salaries, with many dying of starvation or committing suicide. The Supreme Court took cognizance of the Bihar and Bloodless Murder news series, which highlighted that approximately 40,000 employees of Bihar's government had been living in extreme poverty for a decade due to salary non-payment. The Bihar government did not deny the allegation made in the writ petition, but claimed that while some statutory bodies had paid salaries, others faced financial crisis. The Supreme Court found the government's counter affidavit to be self-contradictory and appointed senior advocate P.S. Mishra as amicus curiae. The petitioner argued that the state could not evade its responsibility to pay salaries to its employees, and given their dire conditions, the Supreme Court should issue an interim order directing the payment of salaries. The state government contended that most of the companies were incorporated under the Companies Act 1956 and their liabilities were regulated under this act. Therefore, under the corporate will doctrine, the debts of these corporations could not be attributed to the state. The government also argued that due to financial complexities, 80% of liability should be borne by the Union of India, 10% by the state government, and the remaining should be covered by selling the company's assets. The Union of India denied any such liabilities. Amicus curiae P.S. Mishra's report suggested that the Supreme Court could lift the corporate veil since the state was the sole owner of these companies and exercised full control over them. He further stated that since these companies were deemed state under Article 10 of the Constitution, neither the Union of India nor the state of Bihar could evade their constitutional obligation under Article 21, right of life, and Article 23, right against exploitation. Legal issues. Point A. To what extent is the Bihar government liable for the payment of outstanding salaries to employees of state-owned enterprises, public sector undertakings, or statutory bodies? Point B. The will the court adopt a strictly legal approach and rule that the corporate will not be lifted despite the violation of citizens' right to life and liberty under Article 21 of the Constitution? Point C. The government companies or corporation are considered state under Article 12 of the Constitution. Can Bihar, which exercises extensive control over them, be held accountable? Should it provide assistance to these companies in fulfilling their liabilities to company with citizens' right under Articles 21 and 23? Point D. Can the Bihar government escape liability in this case concerning human rights? Point E. The Bihar state has any liability, can it be transferred to the Union of India? Petitioner's arguments. Kapila Hingorani. The petitioner argued that the prolonged non-payment of salaries to employees of state-owned entities had led to severe financial crisis, starvation, and suicides. The tragic incident of Chandan Bhattacharya's self-immolation was cited as a glaring example of the devastating impact of the issue. She further contended that while the state government might not be directly or indirectly liable for salary payments in all circumstances, it could not shirk its responsibility when the non-payment led to starvation and suicides, causing human rights violations, citing Article 21 right to life and 23 right against exploitation of the Constitution. She emphasized that ensuring citizens' welfare and security was the state's constitutional duty. The petitioner also argued that while the state expected industrial house and corporations to provide a dignified livelihood to their employees, it could not remain indifferent to the plight of its own citizens. Furthermore, she contended that in certain circumstances, when the corporate structure works against justice, public interest, or human rights, it can be dismantled or pierced. State of Bihar's arguments. The state of Bihar admitted the allegations in the writ petition regarding non-payment of salaries and the hardship faced by the employees. However, it argued that it was not always directly or indirectly liable for salary payments, especially in case of financial disability. The state maintained that the primary responsibility for salary payment lay with the concerned statutory authorities and institutions, while the state's role was limited to specific situations. In its counter affidavit, the state clarified that it was not solely responsible for paying the employee's salary. Additionally, the state contended that financial constraints could impact its liability to address salary related issues immediately and that such economic limitations could not be ignored. Judgment. All liquidation proceedings concerning states owned and states controlled government companies in Bihar should be expedited by the High Court. To achieve this, a committee of more than 3 members will be formed, chaired by a retired higher court judge or a sitting district judge. This committee will investigate the firm's assets and liabilities and submit its report to the High Court within 3 months of its formation. For the immediate payment of salaries to employees of government companies, the state will deposit rupees 50 crore with the High Court. The amount will be paid in 2 installments, the first half within 1 month and the remaining amount within the second month. The High Court will ensure that this amount or any other funds received from sources such as the sale of assets of government companies and public sector undertakings is proportionately distributed among the affected employees. Concerned parties may also lay claims regarding this matter. Furthermore, in compliance with the provisions of the State Recognition Act 2000, the central government has been directed to decide on the division of assets and liabilities of government, companies and public sector firms. Please watch full video, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.